Morning, guys. Hope things are going well for you today. Got a great story figured out for you about Granddad's fishing buddy. Hopefully you saw my shirt that fish fear me. What I'd like to do today is share a story with you written by Mary Quigley. It's about Granddad's fishing buddy. I thought this would be a good one. Mr. Pine likes to fish and he's got a couple fishing buddies, so this is dedicated to all my fishing buddies out there. And again, this is Granddad's Fishing Buddy by Mary Quigley. I tried not to fall asleep staying overnight at Granddad's and Granddad's cottage on the lake. But I had it all figured out, listening to the owls, counting stars, playing shadow games way past my bedtime. I wasn't going to miss anything. Then, staying awake, I knew when Granddad scuffed and shuffled around the kitchen. The sky was still blue-black, and the stars were still out like nightlights. "Why are you up in the night?" I asked him. "I could ask the same of you," he said. I followed him to the kitchen and watched as he made breakfast and put on his vest. "Where are you going?" "I'm meeting my fishing buddy," he said. "Oh, fishing. Can I come too?" Granddad started to shake his head, and then he stopped long enough to take a good look at me. I stood just as tall as I could, so I could look every bit as old as I was. "Can you keep real quiet so the fish don't know we're there?" he asked. "You bet," I said. "Can you row the boat without making it go in circles?" "Of course I can, Granddad." "With my eyes closed," I added. He raised his eyebrows until I quickly added, "But I promise to keep them open." "Can you put a worm on a hook?" I swallowed hard. Not sure about that one, but I took a deep breath and said, "No problems." Granddad seemed to add it all up in his head. He put on his favorite fishing hat, and then he left a note for Grandma. "Gone fishing. See ya for lunch. Love, Ed and Sarah." "Yippee!" I hooted. And then I remembered the part about being quiet and whispered, "Yippee." We pushed off the dock with a splash, sending ripples across the glassy lake. Steam lifted from the water like clouds. Ooh, I like that alliteration. Way out in the lake it was quiet except for the smooth sound of the fishing line sailing through the air and landing with a plop in the water. "Watch close," said Granddad. "That's how I learned." I had almost forgotten about Granddad's fishing buddy, and it seemed like he had too. And I asked, "Well, why did we leave without your buddy?" "He'll meet us out here. He'll meet us here pretty soon," said Granddad. We were the first boat out on the lake, but just as the ducks and the geese flew in, one by one, boats began to roost on the rippling water. Granddad knew everyone. He smiled and waved at everybody. Sometimes they traded fishing secrets, which I never trade my secrets. And sometimes they shared a joke. He pointed to me and said, "This is my granddaughter Sarah. She's a keeper." My granddaughter's name is Evie. "Granddad, was that your fishing buddy?" I asked after each person passed. "Nope, not them." Then it was always got quiet and we kept fishing so the fish would come. Granddad reached into a bucket of dirt and pulled out a worm, then coiled it around as he swayed from his fingertips. In his other hand, he carefully held a hook. I looked at the hook, then the worm, then back again. I needed a plan. I don't like worms. I remembered the licorice that Grandma had filled my pockets with yesterday. I pulled out a little bit and slid it onto the hook. I smiled nervously at Granddad, expecting him to stop me. He didn't, and I was glad. I'm not sure how that would work, but we'll find out. We waited for a long time. Our fishing lines hung in the water like the tails of fallen kites. Suddenly, a shadow skimmed over the lake. You can see the shadow right there. A heron, which is a big bird, glided over our heads and landed near the lily pads. He stood statue still, watching the water. In a blink, he plucked a fish right out. There it is. Pretty soon, Granddad smiled and he said, row that boat. Which way, I asked. Over there, he said, pointing right over there to where the heron was balancing on a skinny leg. The heron eyed us both quickly and then he gazed into the water. He waited, stirring up lots of fish. Pretty soon, Granddad said, cast your line over there where the heron, my fishing buddy's at. My bobber went under. I held tight to my pole and wound the reel just like Granddad. I caught one, Sarah hollered. It's a beauty, cheered Granddad. He was real proud, I could tell. But he wanted to catch one too. You'll get one, I told Granddad. I put a piece of licorice on his hook. You can see Sarah's fish right there. Isn't that cool? Pretty soon Granddad had one on his line. But after a while, the heron flew away and I squeezed my eyes nearly shut, trying to follow his flight into the bright sky. He swooped and landed near the opposite shore. Can you guess where they're going? Row, said Granddad. This time I knew exactly where. We followed the heron. Right then I figured out who Granddad's fishing buddy was, the best fisherman on the lake. We caught lots of fish that day, Granddad, the heron, and I. And when we got back, we tied the boat to the pier, and I asked Granddad, when are you going out fishing with your buddy again? He winked, put his big fishing hat on my head, and said, when are you coming back to the lake? And there is Sarah's big fish, and that's the end of the story. I hope you've had a great e-learning day today. Thank you so much for working hard. Tune in again on Wednesday, and we'll have another story. Have a great day, guys. Bye.